Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we have another devblog for War Thunder, and this is for the Uss Barker. Now the Uss Barker is technically in the game, not really by name, but at least by machine. So the Uss Barker is one of the American Clemson class destroyers that will be available to all participants of the Naval Closed Beta testing. Her small size, high speed, and deadly armaments allow her to effectively hunt down both smaller vessels as well as support larger ships in battle. So when I had a look at this, I had a look at this. This is the Clemson Dd336. Now, when we look at its armament, when we look at the torpedoes that it has, when we look at the general shape and everything, to me this looks exactly like the Barker, but it isn't called the Barker. So my guess is with this machine, what they've done is they just haven't given it its name. This would follow the same suit as the Clemson Dd13, which it also might be, and then the Fletcher, but I believe it's the Dd336, and if it isn't, then it's going to come to the game, and it's going to be incredibly similar to the Clemson Dd36. So, a ship of the American Clemson class destroyers featuring great mobility, fast-firing cannons, and hard-hitting torpedoes in a combat package. Isn't that always nice? This ship seems to be more designed around facing other ships at this current time than instead of facing aircraft. In War Thunder, the USS Barker will be a researchable destroyer of the third rank of the American Naval Tree, available to all participants of the closed beta testing of naval forces. Unlike the Fletcher class that shares the same rank, future captains of the Barker will need to have a more modest expectations from Clemson class destroyers, as they were designed during World War I. However, their small size, high speed, and excellent maneuverability make them exceptionally great MTB hunters and support ships. Now this is where we get into some interesting ideas. So when I talked about destroyers and PT boats, they call them MTBs, stuff like that, and even the idea of support ships. Well, the thing about War Thunder that players have never done is like the support role. You can see this from the scouting mechanics. Some people really like it, but the majority of the community would rather be the bruiser, be the person who goes out and wins the game by getting a ton of kills, and this is generally what you see going across the board in most games. Everybody wants to be the carry, and that's completely fine. So when we show you something like a Clemson Dd336, which doesn't, well, we'll just compare them now and you'll see. So first of all, there isn't any armor on this thing apart from this. Your old homogeneous armor around the gun on the front. If we look at the X-ray, it's sat with two very large engines, fuel tanks in the front, pumps in the front. Sorry if the frame rate's not great, I'm using display capture right now. You have the ammunition storage for the bridge, and for the main 4-inch on the front, you have two 4-inches in the center, one on the back somewhere. If you want to have a full review on it, I had a look at it in the preview that I did for the American tree, and then it has 12 torpedoes either side, meaning that you can fire 6 on either side, which is really nice. Then it has the two transmissions, the fuel tanks, and then the ammunition storage here. Here's the other gun, the 4-inch. Now, let's have a look at its BR. So its BR is sat at 4.0. Its upgraded version is also sat at 4.0. The Asheville is sat at 4.0, and then the hydrofoil boat is also sat at 4.0. Then the Fletcher is sat at 4.3. The Trenton is sat at 5.0. The Premium is sat at 4.3. The Cowell DD547. This is also a Fletcher class machine. So, if people buy the Cowell, why would you play the Clemson or the other Clemson, the PGH or the Asheville? Well, you wouldn't. The only reason you would do that is if you wanted to play a inferior machine, or you wanted to try and stay away from torpedoes. Maybe you're struggling with being able to maneuver around torpedoes, and that would be pretty much the only reason. This Fletcher class has 10 torpedoes, so it has more torpedoes. It actually has AA cover compared to the Clemsons, the PGH, and the Asheville. It has a lot of AA cover as well. And then it also has one more massive gun, and their guns are generally bigger. The Fletcher DD445 is exactly the same way. It has a 40mm Bofors, a dual, and then 6 20mm Oerlikons, and then 5 127s, and then 10 torpedoes. So the only reason, let's say you have this whole tree unlocked, right? What is the reason to use the PGH, the Asheville, the Clemsons over the Fletcher? I don't think there is one. Now, some people have argued that with the Asheville, it can get down-tiered and annihilate PT boats, but the Clemsons are the same BR, so you'd use the Clemsons over it. And if getting down-tiered was such a big thing right now, then what would happen is more people would take the Fletcher, just because the Fletcher would annihilate all the PT boats around that 3.3 area. If we look at the German side, here we go, because this will be what you're facing in realistic. You basically have the Type 140 and the Type 1924, the MZ1 that you can get down-tiered into. So I can understand the idea that if you want to get down-tiered, you would use something like a Clemson or an Asheville. Mainly a Clemson though, because the DD213 being a straight upgrade over the DD336, and then the Asheville in itself just being a worse version of this ship. Why would you take it? I don't know. Unless you liked the extra AA cover that the 40mm auxiliary will give you, instead of, the extra larger guns. But anyway, once people get to the Fletcher, what is the reason for them to play anything else? And this is an issue I thought about for quite a long time when it came to naval forces. Once I get to a tank, right? Let's have a look at my army tree. So once I get to the hopper tiers here, as you can see with my American tree, I've been able to play the Ontos, the T92 to great effect, the T34, T32, the M42, of course, for AA. The medium tanks have been kind of fun apart from the M48. The M103 has been fun because it's a little bit of a different playstyle to the rest of them. And as you can see, I've been able to mix and match with them. I've been able to do different things with these aircraft. When I look at the fleet ships, all have one role, which is to annihilate other ships and have some AA cover at the same time. But the issue I'm looking at is the Fletcher is just better than the rest of them by far. And the Clemson then is better than the rest of them by far on top of that. If you disregard the Fletcher, and then the Cowl is as good as the Fletcher, if not better. So overall, you just have this idea where everybody is trying to rush to the Fletcher, and then when everybody gets the Fletcher, then they're just going to stomp everybody who's at a lower tier than them, and it's not going to be very fun. Or the Fletcher's going to get up-tiered into a bunch of Trentons, and everybody's going to play the Trenton instead once they get to top tier. We're seeing this with the Army forces right now, and also the jets. The jets is the easiest example, right, to bring up. So with the jets, you have BR 8.0 and you have BR 9.0. Right now, you don't have a lot of people playing 8.0, and the reason for this is because they get up-tiered all the time into 9.0, putting themselves at a horrible disadvantage, and they basically have to use their skill to maybe get 1 or 2 kills, but they're never, ever going to be able to carry a battle in an 8.0 vehicle, especially if they're stock against fully spaded 9.0s. Now, when it comes to these naval forces, I see exactly the same thing happening, but with the Fletcher, the Cowl, or the USS Trenton, and the only way of dealing with this is to be able to try and make sure that the BRs are spread enough to be able so these types of machines don't face each other. Now, maybe in a CBT setting, the BRs are close because they want people to fight each other, they want to get as much data as possible, and that's completely fine. But in my point of view, when I look at the Clemson, the Fletcher, why do you take the PGH and the Asheville? And I understand there was a few people last time who were telling me, oh, the Asheville is meta right now. It will be meta until people unlock the Fletcher, and until people unlock the Trenton, and then you'll see it disappear into dust. Oh, by the way, just on top of this, we did get a new ship today. I believe it's the Cannon Boot K2, so here we go. Let's see it load in. I did change the default hanger after people were saying to change it, so there you go. It has 2 dual 120mm on it on the front, And then on the back, in these two housings here, it does actually have some nice armor on it compared to some of the other machines. It has two dual 37s for 20mm and two dual for 20mm in the form of here. And then you have the 37s here and here. It has a lot of armor on it, has good engine smoke funnel. And what is it missing? Well, it's missing some torpedoes, so that should be completely fine. And if we look at it 4.0, why would you take this over this? Why would you take this over this? They're going to fight each other and over again. Why do you take the 143, especially the 143, over something like this? You see the problem here? Like, we're adding... It's a race to see how many people have the guns and how many people can accurately fire those guns. The way that this is balanced in ground forces is basically on reload and also speed, maneuverability, and the fact that there's a lot more landscape involved, and also gun depression and things like that, and angling armor. In ships right now, that really isn't the case, so unless there's a drastic change in the map design, or there's a drastic change in the reload speeds, then what's going to happen is these bigger ships are just going to annihilate everything else. We're going to have to see, though. Back to the Devblog, because it is quite an interesting one. The USS Barker will be a researchable destroyer. Yeah, I wonder if they're going to call it the USS Barker. Since we already have the two Clemsons, because otherwise it's kind of a bit odd that it's called, it's called the Clemson instead of the Barker. I think naming it after personal ships would be much more interesting. It seems like they have strayed away from that for the main tree, and then the premiums have been named after, the ships themselves. But it would be nice to see them in the main tree. The USS Barker is equipped with a primary armament consisting of 4 single batteries of 4-inch 102mm cannons. These are spread out evenly along the ship's deck, allowing for good firing angles. It's impossible to get all 4 guns to bear on a target due to the arrangement of the 2 center-mounted cannons next to the funnels. The drawback is somewhat compensated by the cannon's excellent fire rate. However, in addition to the primary armament, the Barker is also equipped with 2 single 20mm anti-air cannons, capable of providing the ship with at least some form of protection against aerial threats, as well as a single 3-inch cannon on the stern of the ship, acting as AA gun. So that is this one. This is the Barker then, not the first one, this one, because of the extra guns. For some reason it's called the DD213. It would be nice, as I said, if it was called the Barker. But yeah, that is how it is. Compensating for the Barker's complete lack of armor protection is a maximum top speed of 56 km per hour, as well as excellent maneuverability. Aspiring commanders of the Barker are highly advised to use the ship's mobility to outflank unsuspecting larger opponents, such as light cruisers. To deploy a spread of 533mm Mark 15 torpedoes from either one of the 4 launchers present on the ship, the good mobility should also be taken advantage of when getting out of unfavorable battle situations, as the Barker with its 150 sailors cannot sustain a prolonged battering from enemy fire. I mean, it depends what's shooting at it, doesn't it? But yeah, I suppose, if you've got the larger ship shooting at you. Although the USS Barker doesn't seem like an attractive first choice for you to take out in battle, it will be when people want to get their hands on the Fletcher. It may surprise the occasional captain with its performance, so be sure to give it a try. I love it how they're already downplaying it. They're like, oh god, yeah, it's definitely not as good as some of its compatriots, but it's alright, maybe you'll like it. That's great. But anyway, yeah, there's no reason to use this over the Fletcher, so this will be used to research the Fletcher, and then when enough people have researched it, it'll never be seen again. Isn't that wonderful? Welcome to the Ship Meta 2018. Hopefully it changes. No idea how it will change. A lot of people have said add heavy cruisers, battleships, and submarines, but then you just have a race of arms, just like you have now, so it won't make any difference, unfortunately. But anyway, we'll have to see. I have got Naval working, so I will be playing it over the next few weeks. And also, I'm getting my soccer balls, so hopefully all of you are doing that, and having fun with it. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time.